BRPtv, welcome back to the MRDR iRacing series and race number 6 of their season. Tonight we go to the virtual Knoxville Raceway in Knoxville, Iowa to get the last race of 2024 in and race 6 of this season, the Creative Turnings Nationals, a 40-lap feature event at the end of the program tonight. We got to get to it first. I've got Jonathan Howe alongside me, as I always do, to bring you these broadcasts. Jonathan, this is one of the biggest, this is one of the most crown jewel racetracks, at least dirt racetracks in America. It's one of the biggest tracks that we're going to go to this season. It's flat. The surface is different. The racing's different after the recent updates to iRacing. It's all different, but it's all good and it's all fun. I personally really enjoy Knoxville. I hope you're as excited to be here as I am.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, Joe. I mean, I don't really know what to expect from this particular racetrack, especially with these Super Dirt Car Series, big block style modifieds. I don't think I've got a feel for it. And looking at the practice charts so far in terms of who's turned a fast lap, I'm not sure what we can expect from this field. But I do like the odds of seeing Kenny Coe, who took a big hit in the standings just a week ago here in the BRPtv broadcast. Hopefully you saw it last week, but tough week for that 22 in the MRDR Graphics iRacing League. And I want to see him get back in this fight because I think Kenny's been one of the more consistent drivers we've seen all year. And more drivers at the top of the standings close together makes for 2 really good final races. So we've got this one to sort through first, Joe.
Yeah, so we got 3 races left on the schedule, including tonight. Kenny Coe had what happened to Kenny Coe last week in our broadcast. I got the lowdown on this before we started the program tonight. Kenny's monitor shut off on him. Now, I didn't get an elaboration if that meant that like the power cord came loose or if something failed. But basically, he was driving last week in 47 Technology Night, and the screen of what he's driving into went completely black. And that happened right before the feature, so he ended up having to reset to the pits. He started the race a lap down. It took him almost half the race distance to get back on the lead lap, and he just never had a chance to contest and get back up to the front and get those points resurrected for his championship. So as you see on the screen right here, he's got a 15-point deficit to Mike Brewer, who takes over the championship lead from Kenny, who was previously the championship leader. We got Anthony Roselli on a hot streak. Cody Higby's always strong. Matt DeRitter's been fairly consistent. There's a lot of big names that he now has to worry about with his championship hopes.
And a lot of drivers to still win this year. There's guys, as I look through the top 10 in the standings, that haven't got up in the win column yet, and maybe, just maybe, they get in there and mix it up. A guy like Ryan Beagle, perhaps.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at Gavin Isley, Ryan Beagle, even Dean Reynolds can pull an upset here. Dominic Roselli got himself a W, but like Matt DeRitter hasn't won a race yet, and there's even guys outside the top 10 who can win races. I mean, Brandon Plank already has a win this season, and he's not even in the top 10 because he's missed a few of the races. So, yeah, there's a ton of names that can come up and get race victories, and Knoxville's definitely different than some of the racetracks we've run this season so far. I made a point to mention it already in this broadcast that with some more recent updates to iRacing, the tracks drive differently. So all of that together, there's 21 drivers registered for this session. I think we're probably only going to get 20 because I know Dylan Smith is having technical difficulties. But realistically, 15 to 20 of these 20 drivers could win the race tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. With how different this particular racetrack and this package is going to be compared to what some of these guys are used to. You mentioned how flat Knoxville is. I think that's going to be a factor in terms of how the track spreads out and where exactly the best line to run is going to be throughout the night. I don't know what you're expecting from that, Joe, but for me, I think it's going to be like wrapping around the top and keeping the momentum up. I think there's going to be something to that, especially off of 3 and 4.
You know, fair. I don't really know what to say about when it starts. I mean, the thing about the flat tracks for me is like the shortest way around is usually the fastest way around when it's all just tacky. So for right now, I'm kind of expecting bottom feeding in qualifying. But yeah, the top's going to come into play big time, and we'll just have to kind of wait and see what comes of like the way the track works in and the marbles and all of the little pieces, like the new textures that iRacing's added. That stuff plays an influence on it. But right now, We're going to go into qualifying here. 5 minutes for these drivers, each to put 2 laps in. They get the tracks to themselves when they do it. Matt Barber, Mr. Excitement on your screen right now, kind of not really proving either you or I right, Jonathan. He's kind of going all over the place, searching for a little grip.
Yeah, right. Kind of running that middle line. Like, he's not all the way up against the wall or anything like that. But I think the other thing to mind about the bottom side of this racetrack, Joe, is there is that kind of mound that you can use, and you can almost bite yourself with that banking, I guess reverse banking if you want to call it. But down in the corners, there is a bit of a mound there. And if you hit that mound, it can really upset a car and really cost you a lot of time and cost you even bigger come race time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. And I think the modifieds being so momentum based, I think, and how much more inertia they have, they're just heavier than like a sprint car, for example. That bottom, that berm, you got to be really careful that you don't mess it up. I mean, you can hit it and run it to your advantage, but it really can screw up a turn. And it's a wide track, so hopefully you're not gonna crash or anything crazy, but it can mess you up pretty easy. I mean, the guys like Cody Higbee, I mean, this guy, very successful at this series, very successful off in the real world in a real race car, knows how to get around a racetrack and knows how to get around an iRacing racetrack, and doing a really good job of showing us, I think, kind of the middle ground of what you're talking about, not hitting it, still getting down as low as he can.
Yeah, you know what? Him going to the top of the charts there, I don't think is a surprise. And if anything, I think that's a warning shot to the rest of the field about how good we could see Cody Higbee be here tonight. You know, I think it's kind of, in terms of the championship fight, Joe, I think it's going to be a race to whoever can get to that second victory. With only 3 races left on the calendar, I don't really think anybody's going to sweep them. And I think those races are still up for grabs in terms of the entire field being having a shot for it. But if you're one of those guys that's already got something in the win column this year, and if you can mount 1 more, maybe even 2 more wins, that's going to go a long way to winning this championship in a bit of a shorter season than we've seen previously on BRPtv.
Yeah, and that also feeds into the new points system, because the biggest difference between 2 positions in terms of points is 5 points difference from winning and getting second place. Everything else goes by 2s or 1s. So winning races definitely is what you need if you want to get ahead in this championship. And I've really enjoyed it. Like you've mentioned too, Jonathan, we've had 5 races and 5 winners. And as a series, we like seeing that, but it's really kept things tight at the top of the board. And albeit with Kenny Coe's misfortunes last week, we still have a great championship on our hands.
Yeah, we absolutely do. I'll put you on the spot here, Joe. Do you see a 6th different winner here tonight, or do you think somebody's going to hit the repeat button?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's a great question. I hate to spoil, but I don't think so. I mean, I know it doesn't directly translate, but there's kind of a correlation. 5 of the top 6 drivers right now from qualifying are the 5 guys who have won races this year so far. So to me, that kind of, we might break the streak tonight. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
The exception to that is Dean Reynolds right now, who's 5th quickest, right? So we'll see how Gavin Isley, he's another one that I'd keep an eye on in terms of being able to get a win here tonight. And it doesn't seem like he's got a ton of speed. The other one that's kind of shocking me, that's more towards the bottom side of the grid here, was Ryan Beagle. He was down there, I think, 20th fastest in that session.
You know, Ryan hasn't had that great of a year start off for him, has he, Jonathan? He really hasn't. I mean, he's okay in championship points, but he's a past champion of the series. I'm kind of surprised that he's as far back as he is at this moment in time.
Yeah, the big dog who hasn't quite found his bark yet, so to speak, this year, but there's still a couple of races left for something like that to happen.
Yep, and tonight definitely could be a night where he finds something special. I think I'll make a quick mention as Heat 1 rolls off. We're going to get 8 laps to start off the action for tonight. I believe that if anybody's going to play spoiler tonight to those 5 guys who've already won races, I, coming into this, did think that it was going to be Dean Reynolds. This is just the type of racetrack where he can find a little bit of magic. He can work his dirt car Dean magic. So if anybody were to spoil, I think definitely Dean would have been my pick before qualifying, and qualifying made me look smart. But we got heat race number 1. There is so much stuff that's going to happen between now and the checkered flag, and you're live with us on BRPtv for for the Creative Turnings Nationals to start off this program with heat race number 1, going from the pole. Your fast qualifier for the first time this season, Kenny Coe in the 22C car. To his outside, guy who's got 3 fast times so far this season, Mike Brewer, will start outside of him for row number 1, a strong row number 1. Inside row number 2 is going to be the 57 car of Dan Smith, and to his outside, going to be Jeff Sharp, longtime member of this racing series, in car number 28. Rolling off from 5th place, we call him the Catfish sometimes, going up to the top side. Anywhere you look, you can probably find the 18 of Gavin Isley. To his outside, going to be the 16 of Matt Barber out of Brockville, Ontario. Rolling from 7th, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey's own Matt DeRitter in the Murder Graphics machine. And Bud Molyneux in car 883, they call him Bud, out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, will roll from 8th place. 8 drivers, 8 laps, 2 points to the winner, 1 point each to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place at the end of it. But we got to get to the checkered flag first to see who gets those points. Green flag coming in the hands of Kenny Coe. Will we see the green flag? This is a slow, delayed start, and finally Kenny Coe sets him loose.
Interesting to note that Matt DeRitter, a guy we've talked about a little bit already tonight, another one who is not very fast in qualifying, has to come from the back of this pack. And Kenny Coe under fire here. Good battle at the top of this field. And this could go a long way to Kenny Coe getting back in this championship fight if he can keep himself up towards the front of the field in this heat and start up front in the feature.
He's looking good right now. He got that slip back underneath of the 39B car. Back to the lead goes the pole sitter. Kenny Coe, holy cow. Gavin Isley goes off the bottom side of the racetrack, gets it back under control, and he is under fire from Matt Barber and Dan Smith. Now he's going to lose both those positions. He just didn't get that slider down. Whoa, look out, Bud Molyneux up over the berm there, too, in the back.
And that's what I was talking about during qualifying, is that if you get too low around this, that berm will really shoot you up. And now that there's other cars on the racetrack that you're battling with, and if there is a pack that is formed, obviously, from the start of this race, you can hit that berm and it can launch you right into somebody else, and that can ruin not just your own day, but can ruin 2 days.
Yeah, you really got to be careful with that, and you got to be careful when you're on the outside of other drivers, because exactly what you're talking about, Jonathan, as somebody hits that berm down on the inside, you really got to be careful you don't get collected by that. Halfway into this heat race, fortunately we haven't seen it yet. Kenny Coe leads the way, Mike Brewer in 2nd, Jeff Sharp in 3rd place, Matt Barber holding on to 4th right now. Matt DeRitter's trying. He is attempting to get his run back together here. He's running a little deep into turn 3 right now. He's gotten past a couple. We'll see if he can get a few more and get those bonus points, Jonathan. He's charging from the back. Like you said, a tough starting spot for the 03 machine.
Yeah, and Gavin Isley still hasn't quite recovered from his bounce that I saw him take a couple laps ago. I know that kind of set him backwards, but Isley's trying again on the bottom side of the racetrack. That's kind of as aggressively, I think, as you can hit that berm, what he just did on that previous lap, Joe, where you can still attack the bottom side of the racetrack, but you got to make sure that if you keep all 4 tires planted, or at least 3, to keep some control under that race car.
Yep, and I liked what he did. The last time he came through there, he went in deep, but he clipped the left front off of the berm, and he let the berm get him tight, and then he kind of powered through the middle of the corner. That was it was just cool to watch. It didn't work super well, but it was at least interesting. Back up to the front as the white flags come out, and the checkered flag will be rolling for Kenny Coe. He will win the heat race over Mike Brewer. Fantastic run to him. He had a little bit of a challenge, but he held it off. The 22C gets those 2 points. Good run for him. Should be starting from pole in the feature for 40 laps later. That's good for Kenny. Jeff Sharp in 3rd. Matt Barber rounds out your guys getting those bonus points in heat race number 1, Jonathan. A pretty good way to start the night off.
Yeah, and especially you mentioned those bonus points, an extra bonus point for winning that, so 2 total for Kenny Coe. I mean, if you're going to get back in a championship fight where you're only down 15 with 3 guys ahead of you, that's a good way to do it.
Absolutely agreed. As we get ready for heat race number 2, from the pole, going to be the 2nd fastest qualifier tonight. Driving car number 97 out of New York in the Handsome Devil Catering Barbecue Iceless Machine is reigning champion of the series, Cody Higbee. To his outside, Dirt Car Dean in a Super Dirt Car Series number 79. Watch for him to be fast. From 3rd place, Anthony Roselli, Van Sickle Electric number 7 car, has been strong so far this season. Actually, he's on a streak of 3 straight podiums. We'll see if he can make it 4 in a row tonight. Joe Matthews in car number 9 to his outside out of Trotman, North Carolina. Rolling from 5th place in the Dirt Defender number 49 machine, he represents Pennsylvania, a longtime member of this series, Dean Meitzler. In 6th starting spot to his outside. Had a pretty good practice, not a fantastic qualifying, but car number 20 of Cody Harris will try to get a little bit closer to the front from there on the outside of row number 3, and Shotgun on the field, all on his lonesome in row number 4, the Slight Electrical number 2 of Alan Slight. 7 drivers in heat race number 2 here, Jonathan. 8 laps for them to do it. Some freaking strong drivers starting at the front of this field. This is, I mean, it's hard because you only have 3 heat races, so you have to disperse everybody into those heat races, but sometimes you get a couple and you just look at them and you're like, that's a tough crowd. And the 4 guys starting in the front 4 spots, that's a tough crowd to compete with.
Yeah, that's kind of the series in general this year. We've talked about it. Each and every race, there's at least 10, 12, 15 guys who we could see running up front, having good runs, contending for top 5s, contending for wins. And when you shrink it down to a heat race, you're sure to get something that's similar to that. And good start there for Higbee on the bottom side. And he'll clear both drivers as the green flag waves. Now Reynolds gets a run back on the outside. He'll have a look into 3 and 4, but he's too busy contending with Roselli. Anthony Roselli in the 7 ride had a great entry on the bottom side of the racetrack, but Reynolds around the outside. He'll hang on a second. Everybody chasing Cody Higbee on opening lap.
Cody Higbee leads the way. A-Rose on the bottom side, trying to use a little bit of aggression on that berm to get around Dean Reynolds. Dean Meitzler fell back a little bit there. I see Joe Matthews still in the picture. Cody Harris is getting his nose in it too. Cody Harris trying to put himself into the top 4 for, I think, maybe the first time this season to get some bonus points out of a heat race. Joe Matthews will not give it up that easy, though. Joe Matthews, a longtime member of this series, real-world crew chief of Super Dirt Car Series racing, and has quite a history with these cars. I'm sure if there's anybody who's going to be smart with their machine, Joe Matthews is high on the list. Cody Higbee, always known for driving smart, he leads the way. Dean Reynolds still having to contend against Anthony Roselli down the back straightaway. Halfway into this one, we're still side by side. We haven't let up since we started with that green flag, Jonathan.
Encouraging sign for later on in the night that we're getting this kind of racing at this point in the night when the track is still relatively fresh. We'll see what it's like after the work-in and before feature time. But right now, this is an encouraging sign. And right now, this is an encouraging sign if you're a fan of Anthony Roselli. He's going to take the fight right to Cody Higbee in that 97 car. See if he can clear him up off of 4. He does.
He does. Anthony Roselli to the lead. Dirt Car Dean Reynolds with Joe Matthews down on the inside, still under fire. But now he's going to maybe pull it around and 180 to Cody Higbee as they reel in the 97 car slowly. The last 3 cars here, Cody Harris, Dean Meitzler, and Alan Slight, they got their own little nice battle going on back here as we get 2 laps to go. They're not for points, just for a little bit of breathing room, bragging rights, and starting position in the feature race, Jonathan. They're definitely not giving up on this too quick.
Yeah, I mean, every time you hit this racetrack is a learning opportunity. You never know what you're going to pick up for the feature, and if it helps you gain, 5, 10 spots later on in the night, you may as well test it out now as the white flag waves. We got one more trip around, and that battle at the front. Cody Higbee hasn't really gave up on it, but he's not been able to close in. As I say that, Roselli makes a little bit of a mistake. There's the door open on the low side. Higbee's going to fill this gap, but can't get there at the line. Roselli still holds on and wins it over Higbee, Reynolds, and Matthews.
Man, if that would have happened coming to the white flag, no way Anthony Roselli wins that heat race. He got lucky, ran out of space that Higbee could get that run going and get past him, because that was... Yeah, he hit the berm. I mean, that's just, we've already said it during this broadcast. We'll beat the dead horse here. Don't do that. So, unfortunate for Anthony. At least he got it out of the way. Maybe he'll avoid it in the future. He still wins heat race number 2, and we go on to heat race number 3, and we roll off 7 more drivers, starting from the pole of this crew. Driving car number 77X out of New York, the traditional lacrosse dig race products machine, is Brandon Plank. To his outside in the Van Sickle Electric number 80 car, representing Monticello, New York, Dominic Roselli. We call him D-Rose here on the broadcast. Rolling from 3rd place back on the scene again with us, car number 60, the Phase 3 racing machine out of Castleton, New York, is Brian Berger. And to his outside in car number 27, representing New Hampshire, the River Meadow Campground, Cadwell Logging, Little Greens Cleaning machine is Sean Green. Dylan Smith, before this race, he was claiming he had some technical difficulties getting online. Fortunately, we get to see the beautiful 15S come back out. He will start 5th place. To his outside, going to be the 71 car of Dylan Slider, representing Port Colborne, Ontario, and Slight Electrical. Rolling off last in the grid, again, just on this continuous piece that we keep saying about unfortunate situations and a slow start to the season, although we're almost done with the season now. For the Ackland Insurance RK Automotive machine, Ryan Beagle is going to have to figure out how to go from last here, Jonathan.
If anybody was going to figure it out, I'd trust the big dog to get it done, but I don't know, man. This field, you just don't want to have to dig out of a hole if you can help it. I mean, why not get some positions made up now, get in that top 4, and at least you're that much further towards the front when it comes to feature time. But we'll see. Plank and Roselli, this is going to be one heck of a battle up at the front.
Yeah, and Dominic, man, boy, Dominic, I'm tempted to say that's almost close. That's close to a jump start. He didn't actually jump the start, but he knew he had to anticipate that because you don't really get much of a chance to get back past Brandon Plank if he passes you. So Dominic's going to try to contend as best as he can. First lap's going to come to a close with Brandon Plank just barely into the lead, and Dominic Roselli's losing sight of it right away. I mean, you really got to make time and do it quickly if you're going to get around Brandon Plank because it's not easy to do.
He got a great run that time through 1 and 2, though, Joe, and he closed back up through the backstretch. Not as great of a run off of 4. Seems like Roselli's got something maybe figured out for the 1 and 2 side of the racetrack. We'll see it again here. Well, it's almost like there's not much of a hill to get a run down, but it's almost like he's got a diamond that's really working for him.
The diamond it's interesting. I mean, it's not really a track state or a track that I would have necessarily expected it to work yet. I should say track state, because diamonds do kind of work on a track like this when it's slick. But hey, Dominic Roselli, he's contending. He's holding on to the rear end of that 77X car. We're going to be halfway into it now. He's got to pass him. Catching's one thing, passing's another. But at least he's still showing he's got the speed, Jonathan. If he doesn't even get the heat race win, at least there's some proof that he can contend in the 40 laps of the feature race.
Yeah, I think if anything right now, all he's doing is just working on filling that notebook for later. How can I make a pass? How can I make an attack on somebody? How can I gain a run, get an advantage on? And I think the trick for Roselli right now is more 3 and 4. I think if he can close up on this front stretch run and into 1 and 2, I think that maybe he could get what he needs out of corner 2 to at least get alongside or at least get to Brandon Plank here. You can see it again. He closes right up. At that time, I think the car started to get a little bit away from him, maybe almost started to push. Now he's going to try that same line in 3 and 4 as opposed to staying just on the bottom side. Let's see what kind of run he gets off the corner. I think he's figured something out here, Joe.
He might have a chance here as the white flag comes out. We had a nice battle for the lead, a nice battle for 4th place as well going on behind him. Dominic Roselli's got a chance here on the outside through 3 and 4. Can he carry that momentum? He's got to roll it off the top and get it straight as quick as possible. Will he charge around the outside? Damn straight. Dominic Roselli to the line. He outruns Brandon Plank and wins heat race number 3. Fantastic run for Dominic Roselli. That's a showing right there. I mean, it's on the table here.
And you know what? I was going to say, Joe, I thought that if he could just start doing what he was doing in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and getting that straight drive off the corner, I thought he might be able to make that pass on Blank, and that's exactly what he ended up doing, and that's how he stole that one away at the stripe.
He did. Fantastic run. I mean, that's impressive. That shows something for later on. And I want to give a big shout out to Sean Green. Fantastic heat race for him, ending up in 3rd place. And then the battle to the end there was really good between Dylan Smith and Beagle as well. I think Beagle was the one who was contesting with him. But Ryan Beagle unfortunately lost out on that one, so he's going to be sent to the B main, which you can see him on the screen here. So this is a 10-lap race. Nobody's going home. We aren't kicking anybody out of the feature. We don't have enough. We don't have 24 total. So these 10 drivers are only going to be competing to switch up the starting order. So these are going to be the guys who roll off from 13th back, and there's 10 of them in this race. There's 10 laps around, and they will set themselves up to grid up for the feature in just a moment for the Creative Turnings Nationals. Matt DeRitter going to be on pole in the Murder Graphics machine for this 10-lap event. Cody Harris in the blue, orange, and white number 20 goes from his outside. On the inside of row number 2, the 84 RK, the big dog Ryan Beagle, and then to his outside is going to be Gavin Isley in car number 18. Rolling off from the inside of row number 3, you got or excuse me, that's not Dirt Car Dean, that's Dirt Defender Dean Meitzler in the 49 machine. And to his outside, Phase 3 Racing's Brian Berger in the 60. Dan Smith, car 57, rolls off from the inside of row number 4. To his outside, the Slight Electrical number 2. Easy to pick out on the track for Alan Slight, 9th place on the grid. The other Slight Electrical Services machine, the 71 of Dylan Slider. And from 10th, new look for him, maybe new car, just has to get it dialed in a little bit. 10th place starting position for Bud Molyneux in car 883. Matt DeRitter in control as we come to the green flag. And it's out. Consolation race is underway, 10 laps around. DeRitter and Harris bring us into turn number 1, and Ryan Beagle going to very quickly start contending for a position here with those two guys.
Yeah, it's all about track position now. You want to start as close to the front as you can so you can find a way to break into a top 10, top 5. Hold on to it. Oh, Beagle saved it. I thought he was going to be going dead left right into the barrier after a little bit of contact there with DeRitter, but instead he backs off. Now, good battle at the front between Harris. Look at Isley on the outside. He'll hit the outside wall and keep it going as well. Anxious moments to start this one. Don't tell them it's just a consi.
Well, I guess those starting positions matter a lot to these guys. I mean, Gavin Isley is not holding back for anybody right now, all the way up to second place, contending with DeRitter right now for the lead. Brian Berger into the picture as well a little bit. Brian, I saw speed from him in his heat race, and it felt like it fizzled out a little bit. So good to see him kind of find that speed again here in this consolation and try to move up a little closer to the front. But up front, it is still Matt DeRitter. Gavin Isley right on his tail. We'll have to wait and see if we get a slider or a dive bomb out of the 18 car. Catfishing. Oh, my God. Cody Harris has crashed. He gets it back on the wheels, but he's got, I think the rear end's probably knocked out of that car. Maybe the front end is knocked out of that car. Yeah,
that's crab walking pretty good.
Yeah, that's over for Cody Harris. Tough break for him. He had a good start to this consolation. Unfortunately, this is going to be him. Oh, this is scary. Please don't cause an issue. Yes, very lucky. He just in the nick of time, got off the racetrack before the leaders come into him. So good, tough break for Cody Harris. We continue on in the consolation.
5 laps to go in this one, and DeRitter still under fire here from Isley. The Catfish has gone to the bottom side. He will take the low line, and we'll see. I'm very interested to see, Joe, how this goes back and forth. We saw a driver just win by using the outside groove. Now we see Isley trying to make a pass for the lead on the inside. It almost looks like the inside trip lane might be coming back to these drivers just a little bit. But I love the way they're fanning out and using every inch of this tricky Knoxville racetrack.
Yeah, I mean, right now I think Matt DeRitter is going to want to defend that top side because we saw Dominic Roselli use it to his advantage. I think there's a little bit of extra grip up there right now. So he's trying to defend Isley from having a run on the outside. Gavin Isley trying to bang the boards a little bit and get a little extra run. Now you see him going all the way up to the wall. That's a Larson line, if I've seen it, maybe a Reddick line, if you will, from the 2024 NASCAR season. DeRitter just trying to hold station in a place where he knows Gavin Isley would be fast. I think that's kind of what we're seeing right now, Jonathan, and Matt DeRitter's doing a pretty good job at it.
Yeah, playing great defense here is DeRitter from the top spot. I think he's running exactly where he needs to be, and he's, you know what, I think the biggest thing we've learned so far tonight, Joe, is that this is a racetrack where you cannot beat yourself. As the white flag has waved on this field, one more trip around, down into 3 and 4. Isley's going to maybe take a stab at it on the low side. DeRitter goes all the way up to the wall, and that should give him the drive off that he needs, and it does. The 0-3 takes the win. It's DeRitter winning it over Isley and Beagle.
Yeah, Brian Berger fell off a little bit at the end of the B main there again, so this is going to be DeRitter, Isley, Beagle, Dan Smith, Bud Molyneux, Brian Berger, Dean Meitzler, Alan Slight, Dylan Slider, Cody Harris at the end of the constellation to set the field for the Creative Turnings Nationals, not to send anybody home. And now it's time for the warm-up. 5 minutes for these drivers. Race control is going to let them work in the track a little bit to a state where they're comfortable letting the race go from. They try to preserve the life of the track without keeping it too young and not having good racing. So there's sort of an algorithm to this. There's a little bit of a strategy to what's going on right here. And Jonathan and I, we're the talent up in the booth, so we're going to let race control take care of figuring out how deep we want to go into this racetrack. And we will take a moment to thank our partners and sponsors from BRPtv and the MRDR iRacing series. And we're going to lead off tonight with Creative Turning. Stan Correa up in Connecticut. He is a Facebook page where you can go check out custom lathe turn, pens, bowls, and more. He's a longtime sponsor and partner of this series. His son Tanner was raced with us a while ago, but Dan Correa, we appreciate him stepping up tonight to partner with the Creative Turnings Nationals and our race here at Knoxville. He's a longtime member of the support team for this series and BRPtv, like we said, so go give him some love. The link in the description of this live stream. We also got to thank Murder Graphics, MRDR Designs, 47 Technology, and Southern Ontario Dirt Show for being part of this program. Slight Electrical Services also jumped on board a little bit this season. All the guys who race, all of their partners to help put those race cars out on the track virtually. Everybody supporting the channel, everybody watching their favorite drivers. We have seen a little bit of a boom in turnouts for these races lately, Jonathan, and it's been really cool to see that we're getting, up to 50 people watching our broadcasts when we do these feature races, which is, we do it for the good of these drivers and partners and everything, and it's really awesome to see big turnouts like that for us.
Yeah, it's been great to see this thing grow slowly but surely, and I think this is a year where things have kind of changed for us, but there's also a sense of immediacy from the championship format style, having a shorter season. And I think that's another thing that can draw people in too, is that, every single race really matters that much more. And with the changes we've made too, it's harder for one guy to run away with it. Again, strength of field too is another reason that we're seeing such a competitive chase, and why this series is, must-see BRPtv, if you will.
Absolutely. Must-see, I think, is a great way to describe what we've been experiencing, especially with, we had that finish at Lernerville. We've got 5 race winners in 5 races. It's been fantastic thus far, and it gets down to clutch time, too, because when we finish this heat, or this feature, we only got 2 more to go for the championship, and it's tight, so yeah, definitely a good time to be joining us on BRPtv. And be sure to, if you want to hit that bell icon on YouTube, or if you're coming through Facebook, follow the channel. You'll get the updates when the races go live for the last 2 events of the season. So you're going to want to check that out. You're going to want to hit that button just so you stay up to date with what's going on. We have the warm-up going right now. We always like to look at who's fast in this warm-up. I don't think it always necessarily relates to who's fast in the feature directly, but you can get a good general sense of what's going to happen in the 40 laps to come when you look at this leaderboard. And Jonathan, is there anything that stands out to you on this leaderboard at first glance that is worth noting, either something you expected and see or something you didn't expect?
You know what, I got to give a shout out to Joe Matthews, having had a great run so far in terms of turning a quick lap. You see Ryan Beagle's turned in a quick lap in terms of a guy who needs a rebound from what we've seen already tonight. And Matt DeRitter, we just saw him win that consolation race to set the back half of the grid. And you almost wonder if that extra track time, if that hasn't helped him learn, helped him dial in his line a little bit more, so that come feature time, he's going to be starting, I think 16th or maybe 17th on the grid, roughly. I think anyways, off the top of my head, trying to figure out the math of who qualified where and what. But this should give a guy like DeRitter that much more confidence, that much more ability to make passes, that much more ability to get out there and move forward in this one versus somebody who may have been sitting cold for the last 10, 15 minutes before this session.
Yeah, rhythm's big. I only recently learned about the concept of working up a sweat before competition. I think it's something that basketball players do. They were talking about it in a college basketball game I was watching with my mom. But in the racing world, the equivalent of that would be to do something like go out and get some laps in this warm-up session, get your rhythm just that much more dialed in as the clock ticks to 0 and the session flips over to the race. I'm a big fan of using as much time as possible to practice. The only times I've ever been successful in iRacing were the result of practice. So for guys still out there using that time to their advantage, more power to you. Always seems to help. All right. Well, it's time. 40 laps around Knoxville Raceway, virtually, of course, for the Creative Turnings Nationals here. You're watching on BRPtv, Joe Donahue, alongside Jonathan Howe for the broadcast, and we'll go through and bring you your starting lineup for race number 6 of the season for the Murder iRacing series. We start off with the Public Enemy setups number 22C. That's Kenny Ko, who's already got a race win to his name this season, looking for number 2. Also looking for his second win of the season. The Van Sickle Electric number 7 machine is Anthony Roselli. We call him A-Rose. We call him A-Rose because his brother, D-Rose, Dominic Roselli, rolls in the 80 car, the other Van Sickle Electric machine, from 3rd place. 4th place on the grid in car number 39B is Mike Brewer, your championship leader, rookie this season. Not showing like a rookie, showing like a professional of this series, a multi-time champion of this series, the Handsome Devil Barbecue. Iceless number 97 of Cody Higby goes from 5th place. 6th place for the traditional lacrosse 77X, that's Brandon Plank. And on the inside of row number 4, you've got the number 28 of Jeff Sharp, representing Scotty's Fashions and Gower's Auto Body Group out of East Greenbush, New York. From 8th place on the grid, another New Yorker, the Super Dirt Car Series number 79, that's Dirt Car, Dean Reynolds. And to the end of the top 10, the yellow number 27 of Sean Green will roll from the inside of row number 5. On the outside of row number 5, in car number 16, is Matt Barber, representing Brockville, Ontario. On the inside of row number 6, in the 9 machine, that is Troutman, North Carolina's Joe Matthews. Outside of him, in the 15S, black with the blue and purple number 15S, is Dylan Smith out of Pine Bush, New York. Rolling from 13th, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, that's Matt DeRitter. 14th, outside of him, the Performance Automotive 18 of Gavin Isley. Row number 8, on the inside is Ryan Beagle, Dan Smith to his outside. Then you got Bud Molyneux and Brian Berger in row 9. Row 10 is Dean Meitzler and Alan Slight. Row 11 is Dylan Slater and Cody Harris. That makes up the 22 drivers to go 40 laps in tonight's Creative Turnings Nationals. Kenny Ko going to be in control of the field as they roll through turn number 4, waiting for Barney in the flag stand. Kenny Ko will release the Kraken, if you will, once he decides it's green time, and we wait and we wait and we wait and we go. Green flag racing here at Knoxville Raceway.
Good start from Ko to clear to the lead. Here comes Roselli with a head of steam. He'll get right to the back bumper of that 22 car and dive to the inside and attempts to take that back. The diving lower is his brother. Look at Dominic Roselli down there. The 80 car briefly to the inside for that lead fight. Instead, he'll have to go back on the defense there as Brewer around the outside is challenging for P3.
Mike Brewer trying to find a little extra gap up on the outside of the racetrack. You try to find places where there aren't as many race cars at the beginning of a race. I always like to do that because it just gives you the opportunity to lead your own way and trailblaze, if you will. From the front, Kenny Ko still leading the way. He's got plenty of competition right on his tail. Anthony Roselli right there. Mike Brewer and Dominic Roselli making a little run out of 3rd place right now. On to lap number 4 already when we cross the stripe again. Cody Higby, Brandon Plank making a tight battle of the end of the top 5 here out of turn number 4. And the mid-pack, definitely very exciting pack here. Dylan Smith, Sean Green, Joe Matthews getting into it, Matt Barber trying to hold off this whole crew, Gavin Isley trying to find a way around the outside, even Ryan Beagle's getting into this picture. Middle of the field right now, Jonathan, is a bit of a mess.
Bit of a hornet's nest for sure, as we just saw Isley bounce off the wall. Looks like he was able to keep it going. I don't think anybody really got too much damage in that incident, but everybody keeps it clean and green. They're still battling from about, I think that's 14th on back, give or take, in terms of that battle that we saw on screen. Now we're seeing more towards the front of the top 10. And everywhere you look, Joe, there's guys trying every different which way to make time, make speed, make pace around Knoxville right now. And that's pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Just checking into the back of the field, too. Brian Berger, something must be wrong with the 60 car. He's dropping a little bit here. Bud Molyneux and Dean Meitzler both picking him off in 1 and 2. But even the guys back here in 19th and 18th, they're trying to figure out ways around this mess. And then you got Joe Matthews and Gavin Isley searching like crazy. Sean Green and Dylan Smith getting into the picture with the top 10. Dylan Smith, a little bit of contact there with Matt Barber on screen, all the way back up to the leader. Kenny Ko, the only one who's relaxing right now, it looks like. And he's not even relaxing anymore.
Oh, he's under fire for sure from not just one, but 2 different drivers, as Anthony Roselli keeps taking the fight to him on the low side, and Brewer is right there lurking too. Something I'm seeing, Joe, that really hasn't been that much of a factor yet is the dust. I heard a couple of drivers talk about it before the race actually started, or before our event started tonight, you know, debating about maybe whether we should have set this as a night race to help with that dust condition. But right now, if you're mid-pack, or heck, even if you're in the back half of the top 10, you definitely have to deal with that level of dust for sure, right, Joe?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a bigger thing for the guys more towards like 10th, 11th, 12th than for the guys who are watching on the screen right now. I know that we tried to have a sunset into nighttime feature with the way you can play with iRacing a little bit. You can play with the time scale. So the goal is that by the end of this feature race, we are under the lights and in the darkness, and that should help with that dust. But for the time being, you're absolutely right to call that out, Jonathan. Definitely going to be a major factor for those guys, especially in the mid-pack. Like I said, Kenny Coe, Anthony Roselli, they're really not going to be contending with it too much. But if you go back here to like Gavin Isley and Sean Green, I mean, you look at this mess. Would you want to be in the middle of that?
Yeah, definitely not, as some drivers are just kind of stuck right now. Seems like Isley's got some speed, but he hasn't really been able to find clean racetrack to make any passes, and that's costing him because Matthews and DeRitter continue to work on the low side of the racetrack. It seems like once you get side by side with somebody, it is very hard to clear somebody. Both the bottom side of the racetrack and the top side groove, they kind of seem to be about even right now, Joe.
Yeah, I would agree with that right now, Jonathan. Definitely doesn't look like there's any particular advantage anywhere on the racetrack. It's just wherever you can get your car to hook up the best. Kenny Coe's been doing a good job of holding on to it at the front. These guys in the middle of the pack, we're starting to see, now that was a little bit of a hip check from the 9 car of Joe Matthews. We're starting to see these guys outrunning the racetrack a little bit, where they start getting into the corner a little bit too hot. They get a little too sideways in the middle of the turn. Once you start overdriving and not reacting completely perfectly to the racetrack, that's when stuff can start going awry in a hornet's nest like we have here. If you start getting in a little too hot, you meet somebody in the middle, or you get a little bit too loose or too tight in the middle of the corner, that's where the accidents start happening. And we've gotten 15 laps into this one without it, but these guys still got to be careful that they don't get into something bad.
You know what? And this is a prime race where you can make a mistake. We've talked about that inside berm, but that wall is no stranger either. It'll jump out at you if you have the wrong line or if you slip and have to make a correction, and that'll really kill you any kind of momentum that you're building throughout the night. So for me, this is mostly about these drivers having to run not necessarily perfect laps, but you almost have to run as best as you possibly can around Knoxville just on your own, not worrying about what anybody else is doing, to make sure that you maintain any track position that you might have.
Yep, absolutely. You got to try to maintain, or if in the case of somebody like Dylan Smith right now, if you want to make any moves and get up front, you got to be really on top of things. I got to give him a big shout out because I mentioned it earlier. I know Dylan Smith was having a little bit of technical difficulties getting iRacing to cooperate with him this evening, and he came in and he said he was very possibly not going to be able to race when we all kind of started grouping up in the Discord for this event tonight. Fortunately for him, he figured out a way to get iRacing to behave, and he has gotten that car to behave enough to get him into the top 10. Fantastic run for him right now. Good-looking car, good-looking run for Dylan Smith. Up at the front, fantastic run for Kenny Coe thus far. He's led pretty much the entirety of it. He's been under fire. He's had plenty of contention from Anthony Roselli, but he hasn't given it up yet. Anthony Roselli he had that one race earlier this season, Jonathan, where he led more than half of it, and then Brandon Plank stole it from him. So maybe he's going to look to repay the favor to Kenny Coe tonight.
Yeah, it's a possibility, but if you're Kenny Coe, this is exactly what you needed, right? You needed to come out, have a good night, do all you possibly could to maximize your points, and get back in the fight after the technical issues that he battled last week that kind of, stopped him from maybe having the run that we've come to see from that 22 Public Enemy race car. Now, I want to say that he's doing everything right, but he's running such a fine line ahead of the 7 of Anthony Roselli that one little slip up, one little mistake, and he's going to throw this potentially all the way. So Kenny definitely has to be in the zone right now and keep hitting those marks consistently. Otherwise, he's going to be in trouble, because not just Anthony Roselli, but Dominic's right there as well in third. He's lurking back there. We've seen him mix it up with his brother Anthony in the past. Cody Higby's just moved forward a spot about a lap and a half ago, getting by to pick up the 4th spot. And now he's got his sights set on 3rd place. And there's still plenty of time for somebody like Cody Higby to run these front 3 cars down and steal this one away late.
Absolutely. Cody Higby has done that before in these broadcasts. We've seen Cody Higby come into the picture late and steal shows before. Last week was our first double Roselli podium of the season. We have not had a podium this season yet that has lacked a Roselli. So either Anthony or Dominic has been on the podium for every race so far. Cody Higby just kicked Dominic off that step, though. He just made the pass for 3rd place. but Dominic's going to try to feed it back to him through 3 and 4. It does not appear he's going to do so. Anthony Roselli holds on to second. I don't know if he has his mirror on, but if he did, he'd probably start sweating a little bit about that 97 machine up top.
And he's just looking so good. I mean, he's back under fire here from Dominic Roselli, so we can't really give him that spot just yet. As look at the slider, maybe that was coming. I think Dominic thought about throwing it all the way up in front of Higbee, but couldn't make it stick down low. He'll go once again, but good little battle here for the third spot. I think we both kind of expected that once Higbee got by Dominic, he would sail on by and set his sights on Anthony, and that just hasn't been the case. Dominic refusing to go away in this one.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jonathan. I honestly thought the same thing. I thought Cody was going to get away from him. Now, the question I have for you, Jonathan, is just if you can look at this racing right now, if you can make a guess, I think it's safe to say that top's where everybody likes to be right now. Do you think Dominic's kind of got the speed and he's just kind of riding out the bottom line right now until, oh, never mind, we'll have to hold that thought. We got a caution on the racetrack. I believe it is Dean Meitzler and Dan Smith bringing it to us. So the first caution of the race comes to you on lap 27, Jonathan.
Yeah, interesting to see what happens here. And you know what? I think this is a good reset for some of those guys that had been charging through the field or had been trying to work their way forward. But I don't think Kenny Coe wanted to see this by any stretch of the imagination as we wait to get a replay here to see what happened to Dean Meitzler.
Dean Meitzler, I think Dan Smith was the other car involved in this, so we're going to ride with the 49 here. It should be about a lap away, or about a half a lap away from the accident at this point. Got Bud Molyneux running behind him, and in front of him is Dan Smith, so that's Dan. That's the 57 car, and he's up right behind Sean Green in the 27. They're all over the wall. Oh, there you go. It's actually
DeRitter.
Yeah, it's Matt Barber giving Matt DeRitter the Matt-on-Matt contact. That's crazy. Matt DeRitter gets spun. Joe Matthews, Sean Green, Dan Smith, Dean Meitzler involved. Maybe a little bit for Beagle. Dan Smith does a rollover, and I think Berger
much
maybe
bigger incident than I think we both originally thought.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of surprised. You see here now with everybody getting into this contact, it gets overloads iRacing a little bit, but I'm kind of surprised. I'm surprised that he went over. I'm surprised that DeRitter was involved in it. It's just that thing. I think it's that age-old thing where somebody gets into the corner a little bit too hot and ends up in the right rear of the car in front of them, spins them out, and then it's a chain reaction.
Chain reaction deal, multi-car incident. Everybody catch your breath. We're coming back with, 13 laps to go when we get the green flag once again in this one. So a bit of a shootout to settle this one, and we're going to get a double file restart at this point, Joe.
Yes, so we're double file back. Kenny Coe had a I wouldn't say super comfortable, but semi-comfortable, 75 degrees in spring comfortable lead, and now it has evaporated and then re-saturated. And Anthony Roselli has to fall in line to that 22C car. He's got things hooked up right now off the restart. Great run for Kenny Coe to get it back underway. Cody Higbee takes advantage and moves back into third place past D-Rose.
And whoa, contact there! Roselli thought he could maybe clear, and I don't think Kenny Coe is going to be overly happy with that one. And if I'm Roselli, I better run away and hide because I don't think Kenny's going to be giving me any kind of quarter if he gets back to the back of that 7 car.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Kenny Coe mentioned it before the race to us that last week was really not what he wanted. It was frustrating to him to have the technical issue take him out of competition and then not have the luck to get back into it in time for recuperating points. So he really does have to try to come out and show out for the rest of this season if he wants to get back in that championship hunt. And Anthony Roselli's run into the corner, that contact, his elbows out, and I'm not sure Kenny Coe is going to appreciate it.
No, but right now Cody Higbee's kind of spoiling any kind of revenge party we'd be seeing. I mean, the 97 looks like it's got enough to maybe get the lead away from Roselli, but Coe not out of this one yet. Neither is Dominic Roselli, and look who's surfacing now, Brandon Plank up inside the top 5.
Plank's there. Brewer's still in the picture a little bit. Dean Reynolds having a good run of things. Jeff Sharp even in the top 10 here. Yeah, Cody Higbee slipped up into this. I think he got granted a little bit of luck with that contact between A-Rose and Kenny Coe. That now he gets to put himself in second place. Oh, man, I thought that was going to be contact. Kenny Coe's sending it in deep. He's learning from Dominic Roselli, Jonathan.
Yeah, he's trying to figure something out. He's got to make some time up again if he's going to get back to this battle. Anthony Roselli has not been able to run away with it, which is probably a good thing for the rest of this field. If they want to steal it away, it's still on the table, even with now 8 laps to go and a little bit of an advantage growing for that 7 car. I think if I was Anthony Roselli, the last thing I'd want to see right now is a caution. And if anybody starts getting a little too antsy mid-pack, that might kind of jinx him here. As, whoa, hang on to it. Almost more contact there between Higbee and Co. And now look at Dominic Roselli. Great battle for second on back.
There's a hell of a battle here. I don't necessarily know if it's the smartest thing to do.
Oh, no.
Yep, it happened. It happened. I don't know who it happened. I think it's Joe Matthews who brought this one to us. I'll have to wait and see here. We're letting the timing and scoring do its thing. Timing and scoring getting rid of the extra lap there. It might have actually been Dan Smith. Let's see what happened. Let's go back. I don't know if it's going to be Dan Smith or Dean Meitzler. There's somebody
like
kind
Harris slows.
Let's check where Matthews is.
Yeah, Matthews was behind this.
Yeah, let me try again here. Trying to track down what the cause of this yellow was. Oh, I think we might have found it. I think it's Joe Matthews. So let's try this out and see if this is the replay we want, Jonathan. Outside of Brian Berger here, Joe Matthews was running just outside the top 10, or a little further back, I'd say, than the top 10 at this point. Yep, contact. There it is.
Yeah, Berger. Yeah, you could see Berger had his wheels all the way cranked to the left there before making that contact. Car was just pushing really aggressively, and Matthews tried to squeeze it and take a line around the outside of Berger, and those two just ran out of real estate, unfortunately, and hurts Matthews there. But 7 laps to go, Joe. This got spicy on this last restart, and I don't think we're done being spicy.
No, I actually think this is probably the beginning of the spice, if you want. We're starting to get into caliente here. The field being bunched up again, I don't know. I think we're going to go single file to the restart this time for Anthony Roselli, so that's at least good for him. Kenny Coe's probably got a little bit of built-up emotion from how things went off the last restart. Cody Higbee's going to try to analyze a way past the 7 car. Dominic Roselli's always one that's fun to watch in situations like this. Green flag comes back out. Anthony Roselli, great restart. Being single file definitely kept it a lot calmer than it would have been elsewise, but Kenny Coe, Dominic Roselli, those guys know it's crunch time now.
No, it's time to go now. Cody Higbee, if he's got something left for Anthony Roselli, now is the time to empty the tank. And I think the one who really has something for him is either Plank or Roselli. That's Dominic Roselli.
Yellow.
We got multiple cars involved. I see Slight involved, and I think Smith as well in this one. And cautions breeding cautions now late at Knoxville.
Yep, and it kind of feeds into what you just said, what I said before. This is where it gets a little bit spicy, and unfortunately, it's going to be, you're right, Dan Smith and Alan Slight are going to be off of the restart, the two who bring this to us. Actually, Cody Harris, contact with Slight, and then I got to try to find that 57 car. Where is he? He is, let's go to him, please. There he is. There's the contact with Slight. So the contact between Harris and Slight, it must have broken something on the 2 car, and then Dan Smith had nowhere to go. Almost over, but not quite for the 2. And yeah, that's just kind of a bunch up off the restart, Jonathan. Unfortunate, and there's not enough time to react to that for these guys.
Yeah, no, it's unfortunately that's just kind of how it goes, right? But we'll get these guys re-racked, restacked, try it again, and I think most importantly for Anthony Roselli is that Cody Higbee is still the buffer car by my count, so he doesn't have the 22 right on his back bumper for a restart once again, and that's, I think, for the best if you're Anthony Roselli.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Kenny Coe might not be so generous if he was the next driver in line. We have 3 cars in the pit lane right now. Interesting to note. Ryan Beagle is one of them for some reason or another. He might have gotten some contact there. The other 2 were Dan Smith and Alan Slight. Obviously, they were both involved in that last caution. So of the 22 who started, I think we're down now to 19 of them on the racetrack. we'll see if we can keep those 19, keep them straight. We've got 3 more miles of racing. We'll see how long it takes to get that done around Knoxville Raceway. Half-mile racetrack, 6 laps to go, green flag back out. Anthony Roselli with a fantastic restart there, Jonathan.
Yeah, that's about as textbook as you could possibly get. And Cody Higbee had a great drive into the corner, gives it up a little bit on the exit of the corner, and Anthony Roselli looking kind of uncontested right now. If he can manage to just be mistake-free, these 5 laps should be a breeze for that 7 car. And the rest of the field, though, they're also going to have to be mistake-free so that we can get a clean and green final 5, now 4 laps to go.
Well, it's looking pretty good for Cody Higbee. That was a great run into the corner, contact a little bit into turn number 3. Higbee's leaning on Anthony, and now Dominic's into the picture. Kenny Coe gave up the final podium spot to the 80 car. Will he slice back underneath to the lead, the 97 car? 3 laps to go now for Cody.
Oh, boy.
He slides all the way up. Are we going to get a crossover here? Anthony Roselli not going to give up that easily.
The champ shows up late, and he has stolen it away from Anthony Roselli. Now Kenny Coe, can he get to the back bumper of the 7 car? Can the 7 get to the back bumper of the 97? This is a good finish to this one here at Knoxville as they battle side by side. Roselli having a look to the inside, can't keep pace with Cody Higbee.
Man, story of this series. Every once in a while you get a night like this where that's just the story. That's the one sentence to sum it up. Can't keep pace with Cody Higbee. White flag comes out. Cody's found out a line that really works for him. Man, he's putting a gap on the 7 car, and it's going to be a stretch for Anthony Roselli to try to regain this one as they come through 3 and 4, hugging the bottom. Class to the line, nothing to challenge. Cody Higbee is a 2-time winner this season of the MRDR iRacing Series. Anthony Roselli and Dominic Roselli, the brothers, are going to take up the rest of the podium behind the guy who put on a clinic to the end there. That last restart, really, he figured out a way to get back at Anthony Roselli, I should say, because Anthony really did nail that restart. Cody just nailed the rest of it.
Yeah, that was impressive. I mean, that's why a champion is a champion, right? When you get presented an opportunity, and that's about the only time that anybody has been presented an opportunity once Anthony Roselli got the lead. Cody Higbee, you got to give him credit as he does a little donut celebration here on the front stretch, and a little brotherly love there between Dominic and Anthony Roselli as once again both Rosellis make it onto the podium for, I believe this is the 2nd time this season that we see both of them. But you know what? There's one voice that I kind of wish that we heard from, and he did not make the podium, but I'm sure Kenny Coe would have some colorful thoughts on the events here tonight.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. We're going to give these guys just a quick second to get ready for this. We're going to interview our top 3 drivers, as we always do here on BRPtv. Jonathan Howe's going to take the microphone. I think we got him, so I think we're ready. Jonathan, if you're ready, we'll bring Cody Higbee in here.
Yeah, let's bring him in here. This is Cody Higbee, the former champ and the closer tonight. Coming up clutch when it mattered most, the 97 car. Cody, talk to us about the stealing one late. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. You kind of just snuck up there and capitalized.
Yeah, that was really exciting. I was actually pretty surprised there. I feel like I didn't fire off that good on that restart, and I spun the tires out of 4, but it was enough. And you know what? I said to myself under caution, I might as well try something different in 1 and 2 because I'd been missing it, and you know, I really wasn't comfortable running the bottom, even though I made so much time down there. It just seems like you could run 2 or 3 laps down there, but then it would kind of clean off on the top and they'd get rolling again. So I figured I'd send it in and kind of just slide it to the brown. And ultimately it got me a good enough run down the backstretch to where I could get under Anthony and just had to stick the bottom there. And I was able to stick the bottom and roll by him.
Yeah, you got a great drive. Kind of figured it out late. You mentioned spinning the tires, though. That seemed to be bit you twice. The restart seemed to be really tricky if you're in that 2nd or 3rd position. Talk to us about, I guess, the disadvantage, and especially in those single file restarts when you have to try to run down a leader and they have control of the race.
Yeah, it's so tough because you try to time it the best you can on that restart, but it's really just impossible to get a good start on here when you're running 2nd. Just running the bottom is so tricky here. It just seems like you got to be quarter throttle, even though it seems like a big track and you really want to run it in hard, you got to really slow yourself down. And that's the hardest part, is just finding the patience to run the bottom. And, once I slowed myself down about halfway through that race, I started rolling the bottom better and better and just started picking them off one by one. And I really didn't feel bad in the beginning. They were running the top, but I knew you can't win the race up there. It'd go away. And sure enough, it went back to the bottom, and I felt really comfortable.
Fair enough. Who do you got to thank for yet another winning drive? The second time you've reached the top spot this season, the first driver to have 2 wins this season.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for putting this on. As always, I say it every time, but it's a great deal to run in the winter here. It really keeps me sharp behind the wheel, and I've got a bunch of people watching too at home, so thanks to them. Like I said, thanks Matt, thanks to you guys for putting this on, and thanks Anthony for running me clean there. I kind of feel bad I had to slide him once I got past him a little bit, and we rubbed a little bit, but it was a racing deal. We were going for the same spot, and he was kind of trying to choke my line down there, and I was trying to slide up, but it was a great race, and congrats to Dom for getting third there too.
Congratulations, buddy. There he is, Cody Higbee. Second time that he has reached the top step of the podium in 2024-25 Murder Racing Series. Now let's go to our second place finisher. Joe, you want to catch up with Anthony Roselli?
Oh, pleasure. All right, well, we got him up at the booth here. Anthony Roselli, you got Joe Donahue, unfortunately. You got a copy, brother.
Yeah, I got a copy.
Hey, my man. It's been sort of an elbows out night for all of y'all out on the racetrack. Talk to me about the way this track worked in. It's a flat racetrack, and I know momentum's very big with big block modifieds racing at any time, but especially when it's flat, I think you really got to be on top of keeping your inertia going.
Yeah, this place didn't change to kind of how I thought it was going to. I really thought it was going to be locked down on the bottom. I ran a race here a couple weeks ago with Dean in another league. It was 358s, and it was if you could run the bottom, you were fast, but it definitely wasn't the case tonight, and you just had to adapt to it. And those first 10, 15 laps, I was really trying to just ride around, trying to figure out where it was good, where I was able to get runs from, and just trying to play it smart and keep my nose clean. Unfortunately, I got into Kenny there, and I got to go apologize to him because I did not mean to do that whatsoever. I know it's not how I want to drive, and it's not how I want to drive anyone ever. So it's definitely all on me, and I hate that I ended this night that way.
Well, yeah, we were talking about that on the broadcast. We caught that little shot there, and it's elbows out racing. You guys got to try to do what you got to do out there, but definitely it was a little bit of contact. I mean, just talk to me about the strategy that you had with Kenny Coe for that long period where he just had control of the lead. You had a fantastic car. You never left the top 3 in this feature race, but Kenny Coe was a challenge to you at the beginning, especially of somebody who you really had to figure out a way to get around him. What were you thinking, and what were you trying with him?
Yeah, like straight from the green. I was kind of just riding, not really pushing too hard those first 10, 15 laps, searching, seeing where I was good, and I kind of figured something out and got a plan together. I knew right from the start I was a little faster than Kenny, just the way I was going. I didn't know if he really was pushing or not, but I knew just since I wasn't pushing too hard and I was able to keep up with him, I thought I could have a little bit more of him. The thing you got to know about Kenny is he's super smooth, and he hardly ever misses his mark. So you got to be really smart when you time your passes. My plan was to go into 1 and 2 that time and try to throw a slide job, and then we ended up getting into each other. But there's rub rails and bumpers on these cars for a reason. Sometimes you get into each other, and at the end of the day, rubbing's racing. But I never want to have to do it that way, unfortunately.
That's definitely fair. Definitely fair. That's a respect thing out on the track. We appreciate that. You guys out there, you try to race cleaner and not get into stuff like that too much. But, hey, it happens, and what the result of that is you are in a tight championship battle now with Cody Higbee. I have to double-check back on the bonus points, but I think you and him are tied after the heat races. I have to double-check that. So you might have a point on him, or he might have a point on you, whatever the situation may be. Mike Brewer did not have a great night, so you and Cody, you're 1 and 2 in this race, and now you're 1 and 2 in the championship. Tell me about what's it going to take to beat Cody Higbee and beat the rest of this field for you to get the championship?
Yeah, 2 weeks in a row where I had the opportunity to really pull back ahead in the points lead or get the points lead back and put some points between someone. And last week I ended up losing it on a restart. Could have taken the lead back. And then this week, Cody came out of nowhere in points. He's been consistent the last few weeks, so it's definitely going to be a tight-knit battle. Really needed that win tonight, but it is what it is, We just got to keep being consistent, and I think that's what will do it for us.
Oh, that's definitely going to feed into it. Some race wins maybe will help you get along the way there, Anthony, but second place ain't too shabby. I know it's first loser technically, but always good. Who do you have to thank and shout out for what came of your night here for the Creative Turnings Nationals?
Oh, yeah. No, I got to thank you guys and Matt. Randy Johnson, he helps me out a whole lot on iRacing. Really, really helped me out anytime I can. Vance Electric, Mobile Metals, Highwood Towing and Auto, Loris Carbs, The Race Products, Fastline Performance. Gonna thank Dom. He's always yelling at me for something. If that was the 80 car on the outside of me, I would have flame basted him into the wall. But that's a show for another night, though. But yeah, everyone that makes this series happen, thank you all of you guys.
Fantastic stuff, Anthony. Congratulations. Love hearing it from you. Hopefully we'll
thank you guys.
Talk to you again next week.
Yep. Have a good New Year.
Good. You too, sir. And we get to talk to his brother, who he's happy to send anytime. Dominic Roselli going to join us here. Jonathan Howell. We get to talk to both of the Rosellis again this week.
Yeah, Dominic Roselli joining us now in the booth here after yet another podium performance for that 80 ride. Dominic, talk to us about a solid drive here tonight at Knoxville.
Yeah, a little bit all over the place there. To second, back to, I think I was fifth at one point. Just all over the map there. Once that track gets good, you get racing. You could run all over.
Yeah, talk to us about how you thought the track was going to change, and were you able to keep up with it, or did you ever feel like you ever got on top of this surface?
Yeah, I felt pretty good from the beginning there where I was running. I felt pretty good in the practice, and I kind of felt pretty good about where I thought the line was going to go just from how I was able to run in the heat race. I just think a lot of it for me was just wrong place, wrong time. I made the wrong move when I should have, and I think that restart there halfway through the race was just really the game changer. Not restarting on the bottom, you weren't able to slide. You were kind of at a disadvantage because you were racing back with the row behind you at that point, entering turn one. So I think if I could have started on the bottom, I could have had a chance. But, Cody got by me when he needed to, and it worked out for him.
Yeah, just talk to us about how hard it was to fight to get by these guys. Like, there was, amongst the front five, yourself included, seemed like some elbows out racing. A ton of contact necessarily, but you certainly had to really be aggressive and take everything that was given to you in terms of opportunities to make passes.
Yeah, for sure. Especially here, it's very momentum based. So it's really hard to make a move and pass somebody. So I feel like with the way the corners are here, it's a lot more forgiving of a slide job you can throw here. Like the other person can see you coming from a while, so it alleviates the contact, but it allows you to be able to pass. But you still got to be a little bit better than the guy ahead of you, which, like you said, for us front five, it's very difficult to be that much faster than somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on another great podium performance. Who do you got to thank for the drive tonight?
Thanks, man. Just gotta thank everybody on the side of the car again. Thank you guys for keeping the entertainment going up there in the booth and keeping everybody entertained. Have a good time out here with everybody racing.
Yeah, absolutely. There he is. Coming off another solid podium performance. That is Dominic Roselli in the 80 ride. And Joe, I mean, what a night Knoxville gave us.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say, because Anthony mentioned it didn't quite work in the way we expected it to. We were expecting it to be a little bit darker by the end of the program, that the sun would set and the racing would probably change to reflect that a little bit. So not quite exactly what we expected initially, but definitely still good racing. We got a long way into this one without having any yellows, and then we had that whole calamity at the end of the race too, which it makes it exciting. It starts getting into I don't know, you want to have good racing, but you got to have some excitement like that to cap things off. So I really enjoyed what we had from Knoxville tonight. The top 10's up on your screen right here, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think, Jonathan? How much more or less of what you expected did you see tonight?
I mean, it's hard to say you're surprised when you have a Higbee and the Roselli brothers at the front of the field.
Great point.
Kenny Coe, great bounce back. But Gavin Isley had himself a great drive to get back up in the top 10. We saw him in a Consi race earlier in the night. And then we saw our points leader, Brewer, struggle tonight. You know, I say struggle. He ended up only 10th spot. Normally we see him right up inside the top 5 contesting, you know, a race winner, at least a podium finish. So there are definitely still some surprises here tonight, even with a podium that was probably the 3 most dominant drivers that we saw last year.
Absolutely. I think that's fair. The Rosellis really came into form last year, and Cody's been a strong member of this series since I first showed up 5 years ago almost. So definitely tonight, I mean, we've talked about like Mike Brewer, Kenny Coe coming in and being in their first season and being very strong, but this is top 3 that you could have seen this last season too with those same 3 drivers. So that's a fair point too. And it was fun. Either way, the Creative Turnings Nationals, whether it was what you expected or it was completely different, still a great race tonight. I thought that everything went pretty smoothly throughout this whole program. So definitely it's going to reflect well on Matt DeRitter and the MRDR iRacing series that we had this night here. Jonathan, it's been fun. Do you have anything else that you can add on to like what you saw out of Knoxville and how that might be leading into what we've got coming for these last 2 races of the season?
I think this certainly makes the points situation that much more interesting. We were talking most of the night about how a win was going to get Kenny Coe back into contention. I mean, I think he's going to be in tension just based on the fact that we saw our points leader, Brewer, have a bit of an off night. So the points battle is anticipated still to be tight at the front of this field, and we'll see how it all shakes out. And can't wait for the final 2 rounds of this championship coming up in the new year. Wishing everybody a happy new year. Thanks for watching along, and hopefully you'll join us and spread the word. Tell some friends to jump on the broadcast, and let's have a great end to this championship and a great start to 2025.
That's what I like to hear. And yes, absolutely. So this is obviously with only about 48 hours left in 2024. Actually, no, sorry. It's almost down to 24 hours. This is the last race of 2024 for this series. And then next week, so 1 week from tonight, we will be hitting Lanier in iRacing for the MRDR Designs 50. That is a 50-lap feature race from the shortest racetrack we will contend this season. And then 1 week after that will be January 13th. That will be the Clay Palace 75. That will be our first time at the new edition, not the newest anymore, but the new edition dirt track of Oswego Speedway in iRacing for the finale. So we are down to 2 races, both of them on the flip side of 2025. So from all of us at BRPtv and the MRDR iRacing series, we thank you for being a part of this program tonight. We thank you for your continued support of this series. We wish you all a merry, safe, and happy New Year's Eve and New Year. Cheers to 2025. We will see you on the flip side of that for the MRDR Designs 50, the penultimate race of this season. I'm Joe Donahue on behalf of Jonathan Howe in the booth aside of me, Matt DeRitter for the MRDR iRacing series and all of our partners, bidding you farewell for 2024.